We are continuing with the Gemara now on the top of Daf Tes Amud Beis in Maseches Brachos. This is Maseches Brachos, Daf 9a. The Gemara just finished off saying that Moshe Rabbeinu had to make a special request from Klal Yisrael that they should ask for the silver and gold from the Mitzrayim before they left Mitzrayim. The question is, why do they need this special request? Hashem said to Moshe, Shelo Yomru, is the last words on the page, that Oso Tzaddik, that righteous person, Rashi says, who's the righteous person? Avram. Oso Tzaddik, va'avodom v'inu osam kiyem bohem, v'acharei chen yetzu b'rechush gada lo kiyem bohem. We don't want Avram Avinu to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you fulfilled your promise to make them servants, to make them slaves in the land of Mitzrayim, but you did not fulfill your promise to allow them to leave Mitzrayim with a rechush gadol, with a great amount of spoils of silver and gold. So therefore, Avram Avinu should not have a taina, should not have a claim that the full promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not fulfilled. Amru lo, they said to him, Ulavai sheneitzei be'atzmeinu. It's good enough that we should leave Mitzrayim with our own bodies. What do we need to get all this gold and silver for? Mashal la'adam sheyachavish beveis ha'asurim. It is comparable to somebody who is in prison. V'hayu omrim lo, and they say to him, Bnei Adam motzian os cholam achar. People tell him, you're going to be leaving tomorrow. Mibeis ha'asurim, from the prison. V'nosin l'cham maman harbe, and they're going to give you a lot of money. V'yomer lahem, and he says to them, B'vakosha mikem hotziyuni hayom. He says, please just take me out today. Ve'eini mevakesh klum. I don't need anything. I don't want any money. Same thing with Klal Yisrael. It was difficult to convince them to take the gold and silver. They simply wanted to leave. Vayash ilum. So it says that they gave them this. They gave them the gold and silver that they asked for. Amar Rabami says, Malamid sheyashilum bal karcham. So it comes to teach us that they asked them and they made this request for the spoils against their will. Whose will? Some people say that they asked them for the gold and silver against the will of the Egyptians. The Egyptians didn't want to give the stuff. Others say it was against the will of Klal Yisrael. The Jewish people didn't want to ask for it. The person who says that it's against the will of the Egyptians of the Mitzrayim, because it says, those who are at home, those who stay home from the war, they want to divide up the spoils. They don't want to give up the gold and silver. Man Damar Bal Karcham, the one who says it was against the will of the Yisrael of Klal Yisrael, Mishamasoy, it is because they didn't want to carry everything. They wanted to leave, didn't have to carry, and not have to carry all of the gold and silver with them. The Gemara now continues to darshan these psukim regarding taking the gold and silver from the Egyptians. Vayanatzlu es Mitzrayim, which means that they cleared out Mitzrayim. They took with them all of the gold and silver and the treasures of Mitzrayim. What is this word Vayanatzlu? The Gemara has two opinions. Amar Rabami says, Malamid sha'asa'uha kimitsuda. You can switch the lamed and the dalet, and it means it was like a trap, she'ein badagan, that had no grain. It was empty. A trap normally has grain to try to capture the animals. Here it was empty. Reish Lakish says, Asa'uha kimitsula. The word Vayanatzlu is like the word mitsula, like a net that you use for fishing. She'ein badagim, which has no fish. So there's no practical difference between these two opinions. But in either case, it means that they cleared out Mitzrayim. But does it come from the word mitsuda, or does it come from the word mitsula? Ehyeh asher ehyeh. So now then the pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu he asked for the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he said, Keya asher keya, I will be what I will be. What does that mean? Amar le HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, Leich emor lahem liYisrael, go and tell Klal Yisrael, Ani hayisi imachem b'shibud zeh, I was with you in this shibud, V'ani eya imachem b'shibud malchios, and I will be with you once again in the shibud malchios. I will be with you once again when there's going to be slavery and servitude in the future. Not only was I with you when you were in Mitzrayim, I'm going to be with you in future tsaras and future oppressions. Amar Lefanav, he said to him, Ribona Shalola, Master of the world, Dayu Letzara B'Shaita, is it not enough, the bad things that are happening right now? Why do we need to mention, Eya Shareya, I will be with you now, just as I was with you now, I will be with you in the future? Why should we mention the future tsaras? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Leich Emor Lahem Eya Shalachani Aleichem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're right, go tell them just one time, Eya has sent me to you, meaning I am with you in your current tzara. Aneni Hashem Aneni. Now the Gemara turns to another drasha where Eliyahu Navi says, answer me Hashem, answer me, by Har HaKarmel, when he was at Har HaKarmel. Amar Rabbi Avo says, Lamo Amar Eliyahu Aneni Beis Pa'amim. Why does Eliyahu say twice the word Aneni? Melamed Shamar Eliyahu Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This teaches us that Eliyahu said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, Aneni shetered eish min hashamayim. Answer me that the fire should come down from heaven. V'tochal kol asher al mizbeach, and it should consume everything on the mizbeach. V'aneni shetasiach daitam kedei shelo yomru ma'aseh kshavim heim. And also you should make sure that they don't believe that this was some kind of witchcraft, but they realize that it was from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar, like it says, Va'ata hasibosa as libam achoranis. You can turn their hearts back. You can create, as the full pasuk says here, Aneni Hashem Aneni v'yedu ha'amazeh ki atah Hashem ha'elokim. They should all know that you are God. Va'ata hasibosa as libam achoranis. You're the one that turns the hearts. You're the one that controls the minds of man. Says the Mishnah now, second Mishnah, discussing the time for Kriyas Shema in the morning. Me'emosai koren es Shema b'shachris. From when do we read Shema in the morning? This is kind of like a continuation of the first Mishnah, which discussed when is the time for Kriyas Shema in the evening. Now we turn to the Kriyas Shema of the morning. What is the proper time? The Mishnah says, Mishayaker ben tchelas lelavan. It is from the time in the morning that it is light enough that a person can tell the difference between blue wool and white wool. Rabbi Eliezer says, ben tchelas lekarti. It's the time that a person can tell the difference between a kind of a blue wool and a green wool. And v'gomra ad hanetzachama. According to this first opinion, you have only until sunrise to say the morning Kriyas Shema. Rabbi Yoshua says, ad shaloshos. You have until 3 hours into the day. Shekein derech melachim lamod b'shaloshos, because it is the way of kings to get up 3 hours into the day. This is all learned from the pasuk of uvekumecha, when you wake up. That's the time for saying the Shema. So Rabbi Yoshua is saying people wake up all the way into 3 hours into the day. That's the time the kings arise. Hakore mikan vo'elach. Now, if a person reads Shema later than this time period, lo hifsid, he doesn't lose anything. Ka'adam hakori b'Torah is no different than a person reading from the Torah. He doesn't get the mitzvah of reading Kriyas Shema in its proper time, but certainly gets a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, of learning Torah. The Gemara now says, my bein tcheles lelavan. What exactly does it mean to tell the difference between blue and white wool? If it means that you have two pieces of wool in front of you, and there's one mass of white wool and there's one blue wool, a person can see that even in the middle of the night. That's a clear distinction, and that cannot be what the Mishnah means. Ella, rather, the Gemara explains, it means if you have one piece of wool, and within that one piece of wool is blue and white, can you distinguish the difference of when it turns from blue to white? At that point in time, if you can, it is light enough outside to say the Kriyas Shema of the morning. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Meir says, Mishayaker ben ze'ev lekelev. The time for Kriyas Shema in the morning is when you can see the difference between a wolf and a dog. Rabbi Akiva says, ben chamor la'arud. It is the time when you can see the difference between a donkey and a wild donkey. V'acherim omrim, others say, Mishayira es chaveiro rochak daled amos v'yakirenu, when a person can see his friend 4 amos away and recognize him. Amar Rav Huna, and Rav Huna says, halacha ka'acherim, this is the halacha like the acherim's opinion, recognizing a person's friend from 4 amos away. Amar Abaya says, l'tfilin ka'acherim. The halacha is about putting on tefillin. You can put on tefillin from the time you can recognize your friend from 4 amos away. That's when the halacha is like the acherim. However, the Kriyas Shema kivasikin. When it comes to the Kriyas Shema, we follow the vasikin. We follow those who wanted to go and do the extra measure. The Amar Rav Yochanan said, vasikin hayu gomrnosa im hanetzachama. The righteous, they would make sure to finish Kriyas Shema with hanetzachama, with sunrise. Tanya nami hachi, we have a brisa like this as well. Vasikin hayu gomrnosa im hanetzachama. The vasikin used to try to finish Kriyas Shema with hanetzachama, with sunrise, kadesh yismoch geula letfila, in order that the redemption bracha, the bracha of Gal Yisrael, should be next to the bracha of the first bracha of Shmona Esrei of tefila. V'nimtza mispalel b'yom, and he would then be davening during the day after sunrise. So you finish Kriyas Shema right before sunrise, begin Shmona Esrei after sunrise, what we call vasikin. Amar Rabbi Zeira says, Ma'ikra, what is the pasuk that references this? Yeruchim Shemesh v'lefnei Yerach Dor Dorim. So with the sun, Yeruchim Shemesh, a person sees HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts at Shmona Esrei with the sun, with the rising of the sun, like the vasikin. Hey, Rabbi Yoshua ben Eliyakim mishum kol kadisha of Yerushalayim. He testified in the name of the holy congregation in Yerushalayim as follows. Anybody who is somech geula letfila, anybody who puts the bracha of redemption near the bracha of tefillah of Shmona, near the first bracha of Shmona Esrei, near the Shmona Esrei, he will not be damaged that entire day. Amar Reb Zeir says, Ini, is that really true? V'hana samchi vitziki. I did smichas gula tefillah, I put the bracha of Gal Yisrael next to Shmona Esrei, and I was damaged. Amar Le, they said to him, B'mai itzikis. What was your damage? What was your damage exactly? The amdias asalave malka, that you had to give a hadas. You had to give a hadas to the king. It was like almost like a kind of a tax. That's why you think you were damaged today. Hasam nami miboylach lemeav agro lemechseape malka. You know what? It is fitting to give something when you go to see the king. The Amar of Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says, Liolam yishtadil adam loretz likras malchei Yisrael, a person should try to run to see Jewish kings, v'lo likras malchei Yisrael bilvad, and not only to malchei Yisrael, elo afilu likras malchei Akum, a person should run even to see the non-Jewish kings, shem yizkeh, that way if he merits yavchin, he'll understand bein malchei Yisrael la malchei Akum, the difference between the malchei Yisrael, the Jewish kings, and the malchei Akum. So the point of the Gemara there is, the Rabbi Zeir thought that he was damaged that day, even though he was samech gula tefillah, and the Gemara wants to say, no, that's not considered a damage. It is fitting to give something when you see a king. Gemara now continues near the bottom of the page. Amar le Rabbi Law le'ula. Rabbi Law says to Ula, Ki ailis lahasam, when you go over there, shoel bishlama de Rav Brona achi. So he said, Rabbi Law said to Ula, go ask the well-being of Rav Brona, my brother, b'maimun kol hachabura, and ask about his well-being in front of everybody. The Adam gadol hu v'samach b'mitzvahs. He's a great person. He's happy to do mitzvahs. Zim nachara, one time, samach geula l'tfila. He put geula next to tfila, v'lo pasach chucha mipume kula yoma. He didn't stop smiling all day. You see that mitzvahs are beloved to him. He's a great person, and you should give him this honor. The Gemara now asks, how could a person be somech geula l'tfila v'ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan? But didn't Rabbi Yochanan say, B'tchila hu omer Hashem sfasai tiftach, u'levasof hu omer yu l'ratzon imrefi? That before Shmona Esrei, a person should say, Hashem sfasai tiftach, Hashem open up my lips, and then a person should say at the end that my words should be accepted. Now, isn't the Hashem sfasai tiftach an interruption between Gal Yisrael and the Shmona Esrei? Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Tehei b'tfila shel arvis. The Hashem sfasai tiftach will only be by Ma'ariv, and by Shacharis, in fact, there is no Hashem Sfasai Tiftach. You go straight from Gal Yisrael into Shmona Esrei. The Gemara says, 1 second, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, but didn't Rabbi Yochanan say, Ezu ben olam haba zeu asomech geula shel arvis l'tfila shel arvis? Said, who is a ben olam haba? Who is one for the world to come? That's somebody who does this smichas geula l'tfila even by Ma'ariv. So it doesn't help us to move Hashem Sfasai Tiftach to Ma'ariv. El Amar Rabbi Elazar, rather Rabbi Elazar says, Tehei b'tfilas ha-mincha. Rather, it's going to be a mincha that you say Hashem Sfasai Tiftach, but the Gemara now gives an alternative answer. Rav Ashi says, Afilu tema kulu, you can say Hashem Sfasai Tiftach at all 3 Shmona Esreis. V'kevon de kavur Rabbanan betfila, once the Rabbanan said Hashem Sfasai Tiftach is part of Shmona Esrei, ketfila arichta damya, it becomes an extension of the Shmona Esrei, it is part of the Shmona Esrei, it's not an interruption. So even if you're saying it at Shacharis, even if you're saying it at Ma'ariv, it is no interruption between that and the bracha of Gal Yisrael. Dilo tema, and if you didn't say this, Arvis hechi matzi samach, you'd have a big question by Ma'ariv. How is there smichas geula l'tfila v'haboy l'meimar hashkivenu? What about the bracha of hashkivenu? Even when you say in Ma'ariv Gal Yisrael, that doesn't go directly into Shmona Esrei. You say the bracha of Gal Yisrael, then you say hashkivenu, and then you go into the Shmona Esrei. So isn't hashkivenu an interruption? The Gemara answers, Elakevon de takinu rabbanan hashkivenu kegeula arichta damya. Rather, once the rabbanan say hashkivenu, it is like considered an extension of the bracha of Gal Yisrael. It's like a long bracha of Geula, and it's not an interruption. Hachinami, so too over here. Kevin de kavur rabbanan betfila. Once the rabbanan say that in tefillah you say Hashem Sfasai Tiftach ketfila arich damya, it is an extension of the tefillah. The Gemara now asks, Michti, let us see. Hayu l'ratzon imrefi. This phrase of that my tefillah should be accepted, mashma levasof mashma meikara. It could have been said in the beginning of Shmona Esrei. It could have been said at the end of Shmona Esrei. It would make sense in either case. Devo'ino l'meimar. You could have said it both times. My time tiknu rabbonan la'achar yudches brachos. Why did the rabbonan say that you should say it after the 18 brachos of Shmona Esrei? Leimru meikara. Let's say it from the beginning. Amr Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Shimon ben Pazi. So Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shimon ben Pazi, says, Hoel v'lo amru David elo la'achar yudches parshios. Since David HaMelech in Tehillim said this phrase after 18 parshios, lafikach takinu rabbanan la'achar yudches brachos. It is for that reason that the rabbanan said this that you should say this after the 18 brachos of Shmona Esrei. So the Gemara asks, Hani yudches yud tes havyan. these 18 parshios, there's actually 19 parshios before Yula Ratzon of David HaMelech. Gemara answers, Ashrei Ish v'lam harag shu goyim choda parshahi. The Parsha in Tehillim referred to as the Parsha of Ashrei Ha'ish, and the Parsha in Tehillim of v'lam harag shu goyim are actually one long Parsha, and we have a proof for this. The Amar Rav Yehuda Breid Rav Shimon ben Pazi, Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shimon ben Pazi, said, Kuf Gimel Parshios Amar David. There were 103 Parshios that David HaMelech said. V'lo Amar Hallelujah, and he didn't say the word Hallelujah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be praised, Ad Shera b'mapolosan shal Rishoim, until he saw the downfall of the Rishoim, Shenamar, like it says, Yitamu chatoim min ha'aretz, u'Rishoim od einam, Baruchi nafshi es Hashem Hallelujah. That it says that when the sins are ended from the world and there's no more Rishoim, then he said Hallelujah. So you see that you see from this statement that there were 103 parshios until that moment, and the Gemara points out, Hani Kuf Gimel Kuf Dalet Havin. If you do the math, it's not 103, it's 104. So what's going on? Same thing as we said above. Elashma mina. Rather, you see from this, Ashrei Ish v'lam harag shu goyim chada parshi. You see that Ashrei Ish and lam harag shu goyim are actually, in fact, one parsha. The Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yochanan, because Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani said in the name of Rav Yochanan, and we will see on Daf Yud Amar Aleph what statement Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani made in the name of Rav Yochanan in the next video.